So I don't know about you guys, but there are times when I feel like not doing anything at all. And a lot of times it can be extremely hard, right? There can be a multitude of different things that could lead up to this. You know, maybe you just wake up and you don't feel like doing anything, or maybe you start the day, right? You start your regular routine and it just keeps to, you know, it was bad traffic and it continues to snowball, right? And your day just keeps getting worse. And then by the end of the day, when you're supposed to be doing stuff that perhaps you're interested in, you really lose interest and you just don't feel like doing anything. And one of the biggest things I've found to really combat this, right, is to, you know, keep that momentum going, right? Especially because a lot of times if you find that you are sitting and you're not doing a lot, you know, this can turn into a really bad habit and you're used to that and you'll always gravitate towards that and you'll always essentially pick that over, you know, the thing that you're supposed to be doing. And a lot of times this can be hard, right? Going through the motion can be extremely tough. But what I've always found is if you do keep the momentum, right? Especially if it's a day you wake up and you feel like you just don't want to do anything. You may actually feel sad. You may actually be battling with depression a little bit, right? And this can be really hard because it takes every fiber of your being to do any little thing. And one of the biggest things is to find that momentum, whatever that is. If you're supposed to get up at a certain time, you know, if you're trying to start your day off a little bit earlier, you know, set that alarm, put it across the room, so you have to actually get up out of bed, and that's your momentum, right? That's that little nudge to say, hey, you got to get up. Now we're going to keep moving, and then perhaps you want to go to the gym, so you have your gym clothes next to the alarm clock. So you're like, okay, this is not at all what I want to be doing right now at this time of day, right? But you continue to go through the motion. You start putting on your clothes. You know, maybe you have a cup, so you grab your cup and you go to the fridge, you get some water, you know, straight up from waking up, and then you know, grab your keys and your wallet and you head out to go to the gym, right? This is one of the biggest things where you want to keep that momentum going. And no matter what you're doing, right? If you find that, hey, I don't have time to work out in the morning, this is not my routine, and you are not the kind of person that doesn't want to wake up early, right? So you wait till after work, and after work you come home, and a lot of times you're like, man, I just want to, you know, jump on the couch and watch some TV and just not even think. Well, the biggest thing is as soon as you come in, is to just get changed as soon as you can, right? That's the first thing you do. Don't even think about it, just go and get changed, and then just start going through the motions, right? And just keep going through the motions and going through the motions, and you know, the next thing you find out, you're in your gym clothes, you're headed to the gym. That's not where you want to be, but you're there, you're doing it, you're going through the routine, right? And the more you do this, the more you exercise on this momentum, you'll find that it helps you a lot of times in anything, right? If you are, you know, going through, you know, some state of depression. I know there were times in my life when I've been in a state of depression, right? And it was extremely hard, and a lot of times I gave in to the easier thing, which is to just sit and perhaps watch mindless TV or watch something that I didn't have to think about, right? And this is essentially running away from a lot of problems that we have. And yes, there's some underlying root things that we probably need to solve, but the biggest thing here is to keep that momentum going, right? Don't allow yourself the time to sit and think about what else you could be doing. Just start doing, right? As soon as that thought comes in your head, okay, well, this is my daily schedule and this is what I got to get done. These are the tasks I need to get done to stay on board on what I'm trying to complete in my life, right? What I'm trying to accomplish. And the biggest thing I found is if you can do this, right? If you can just keep that momentum going and execute on those tasks, right? As soon as you get off work, you may be tired, but that doesn't matter. You got things you got to do, and just go through the motion. And a lot of times you'll find that doing this is what it takes, right? A lot of times you are not going to be motivated. You're going to be extremely, you know, you might be tired, you might be exhausted from the night before, you might have other things going on. Now, you know, give or take, you know, life has things that happen, and there's some things you have to address, right? Some things take priority. Like say if you have kids or something comes up, you know, it is what it is, right? But nonetheless, I mean, you want to keep that momentum going, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if you are trying to write a book or whatever the case is, you want to execute, right? Dedicate time during the week. Make sure that no matter what happens, this is what's going to get done. Yes, life does happen, but you're still going to execute on it, right? You're still going to sit down and force yourself to do it, even though a lot of times it's easier to just not do it and say, hey, I'll do it tomorrow, because if you push it off till tomorrow, it will never get done, right? And we find that this is a nasty habit that we develop in ourselves, and I've developed this habit, a couple different times in my life, and I've had to unlearn it and force myself to go a lot of times, right? Whether that was in my health, whether that was, for writing a book or anything like that. It's a bunch of different things that I've always fought, right? It's always that internal battle of, well, I just rather relax right now because it's much easier and I can push it off till tomorrow, which 9 out of 10 times you push it off till tomorrow, you keep pushing it off, and then eventually that one thing that you wanted to get completed, right, is essentially wiped under the rug, and you completely forget about it, right? And you're upset that you did that and you were making progress, and all of a sudden you stop doing it. And this is why you need to keep yourself in check, right? You need to be monitoring yourself, and don't give yourself those excuses. It's easier to execute when you have that momentum going, when you feel like, hey, I gotta go to the gym, so I'm just gonna go, as opposed to sitting there thinking, well, if I did this, then I can do that. And that's only going to lead you to sit and give yourself more time to think, right? And it's easier to just execute on that thing that needs to be done, as opposed to sitting and thinking about it and all the reasons why you can't do it and all these other different reasons, which are, you're essentially lying to yourself why you can't do it, right? You just are not making a priority, so you pass it off, and then you do something else that takes you out of the way a little bit, and then you find that task never gets done, right? So it's important to make sure that you prioritize that and you execute on that on a daily basis. And again, this is something, it really depends on your situation and what you're going through. Yes, we are not all perfect, right? I am not perfect. I do not do this every single time. Yes, a good majority of the time, and that's ultimately what it is, right? Is a majority of the time I'm going to execute on it and go through the motions, right? And a good majority, as long as it's a good majority of it and you don't make it a habit, right? Transform that bad habit into something you're trying to break, right? You're trying to keep the momentum going so you can build whatever it is that you're trying to build. And that's ultimately what it is it's, the longer you start, giving yourself excuses, the more that's going to become a habit. Find that leaks into everything, right? Any little thing that you do essentially is everything, right? And so that's why it's important to make sure you're executing consistently as much as possible. And yes, we do stumble sometimes, but you just have to pick yourself up and just keep going, right? And especially in the beginning when you start anything, because when you start anything is the hardest time, because you're trying to develop that routine. Once that routine's set, then it's easier to go through those steps, those motions, without having to worry about it, right? Because normally you're used to that momentum, right? You get that momentum going and you just keep knocking everything out, and you're ready for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then before you know it, everything is done, and then you can finally sit there and gather with your thoughts. And a lot of times, by that time, you are tired and you want to relax. So relax a little bit, and then get up and do it all over again, right? And so that's ultimately the thing, is just to continue that momentum and know whatever you have to do to set that up, set it up. And if that means, hey, right after this time, try to essentially stagger everything together, have, one thing linked to the next thing. And then that way you're kind of like, okay, well, after this, right after I get home, I have to sit down and write. So I'm going to sit down and write for that hour. After this, I have this. So just trying to link little things together. And if you find that you're trying to build a routine, it's a little bit harder, is to essentially put some kind of visual reminder to remind yourself that, hey, I need to get this done today. So this is the next step, and then slowly start executing on it until you, again, build that habit up. So if you guys enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like button on the way out. Until next time, I will see you guys later.